Hello ladies and gents, I'm back and I'm going to find a video of the day, and here we're going to have quite an interesting tale, I would say. A tale that would show that the majority of Americans are not psychopathic lunatics, and the majority of Americans probably don't really like what these people are doing. Let's get right into it. Over 75% of voters say protesting at homes of Supreme Court justices is unacceptable. According to a new poll, the poll conducted by the Trafalgar Group and Convention of States Action from May 6th to May 8th also found that 52.3% of voters believe the White House's initial refusal to condemn the protests encouraged violence and unlawfulness. Exactly! I would not disagree with that one. That 1,082 residents were asked, do you believe that publishing the home addresses of the 5 U.S. Supreme Court justices and calling for protests at their private homes is an acceptable way to protest the High Court's upcoming decision on Roe v. Wade? The view that the protesters are unacceptable crossed party lines, with 66% per majority of Democrats, 86.5% of Republicans, and 75.1% of independents saying so. These numbers make it clear that the Biden administration's refusal both to forcefully condemn these illegal demonstrations and to enforce laws protecting justice of the United States Supreme Court is wildly unpopular with voters, said Mark Meckler, president of the Convention of States Action, in a statement about the poll results. While this poll cannot measure the outrage that Americans feel because of this politically driven double standard of injustice, in which supporters of a radical leftist agenda can essentially do whatever they want while good citizens suffer, voters' outrage will be expressed at the polls in November, Meckler continued. From the riots in our cities they encouraged and supported to refusing to condemn protesting at the private homes of Justices of the United States Supreme Court, Democrats are out of step with the vast majority of Americans, regardless of political party. According to a website, the Convention of States Action is a grassroots network of over 5 million supporters and volunteers, with a mission to restore a culture of self-governance in America and to curtail federal overreach. Pro-abortion activists marched into the neighborhood of Justice Samuel Alito on Monday evening in protest of the leaked opinion he authored to overturn Roe v. Wade. As Timcast previously reported, activists also gathered outside the homes of Chief Justice Roberts and Justice Brett Kavanaugh on Saturday evening. The protests were organized by a group called Ruth Sent Us, who have published the home addresses of the justices earlier in the week and called for people to join them to protest. The White House refused to condemn the activists or urged them to choose another location when pressed out about it last week. These activists posted a map with the home addresses of the Supreme Court justices. Is that the kind of thing this president wants to help your side make their point? Fox News reporter Peter Doocy asked during a White House briefing on May 5th. And this is what their response was.
These activists posted a map with the home addresses of the Supreme Court justices. Is that the kind of thing this president wants to help your side make their point?
Look, I think the president's view is that there's a lot of passion, a lot of fear, a lot of sadness from many, many people across this country about what they saw in that leaked document. We obviously want people's privacy to be respected. We want people to protest peacefully if they want to protest. That is certainly what the president's view would be.
So he doesn't care if they're protesting outside the Supreme Court or outside someone's private residence?
I don't have an official U.S. government position on where people protest. We want it, of course, to be peaceful.
So there you have it. Again, it is a felony to protest or to intimidate or to what have you, to go to a Supreme Justice's house and do a protest or etc. It's considered a felony. So you guys are actively endorsing this. I may believe Lori Lightfoot also did something like this. So you guys are actively doing these protests, actively trying to do it. Elizabeth Warren was another case of these matter. The Democrats have shown to be very, very insane, and I can't believe that this is the reality that we see here. Well, I can believe it actually. Because they're lunatics. They're not right in the mind, and they actively want to destroy this country and ruin people's lives. Because as their policies partake, they actively destroy lives, and they actively don't help people. But I digress. And I'm talking about the politicians here mostly. The politicians are the ones that usually ruin people's lives. However, I will say it's also the people's fault that vote blue, because if they want to improve their lives, they have to try voting a different way. And I agree, sometimes voting for a Republican is not the greatest idea either. Psaki tweeted that strongly believes in constitutional right to protest, but that should never include violence, threats, or vandalism. Judges perform an incredibly important function in our society, and they must be able to do their jobs without concern for their personal safety. The protests are in response to a draft opinion showing that the Supreme Court voted to overturn Roe v. Wade, which was leaked to Politico. We hold that Roe and Casey must be overruled, Justice Samuel Alito wrote in the document labeled Opinion of the Court. It is time to heed the Constitution and return the issue of abortion to the people's elected representatives. Until the opinion is signed, justice can still change their minds. In the meantime, Roe v. Wade remains in place. If Roe is overturned, abortion law will be returned to the states to decide, which is what it should always be and should never ever change. The fact that people want to change it or whatever is just baffling and maddening. But for you guys to actually see the statistics and what people actually believe in and to show they're not lying, let's go over here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the Traffical Law Group. All right, so we have the nationwide survey, conducted 506 and then ended at 508, so about 2 days of actual survey and research. Around 10,082 respondents, likely general election voters, response rate 1.44%, margin of error 2.99%, confidence 95%, response distribution 50%, methodology, the blah, 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 blah. Nobody cares about this one. All right. Here we go. Do you believe that the home addresses of the five U.S. Supreme Court justices and calling for protests at their private homes is an acceptable way to protest the High Court's upcoming decision in Roe v. Wade? 75% say no. 15.9% say yes. 8.3% say unsure. This is the SCOTUS protests. And now, let's go with the SCOTUS protests with the Democrats. Do you believe that the home addresses of the 5 Supreme Court justices and calling for protests at their homes is an acceptable way to protest the High Court's upcoming decision on Roe v. Wade? 66.6% say no. 21.4% say yes. 12.0% say unsure. And the same question here with the GOP. 86.5% say no. 7.9% say yes, and 5.7% say are unsure. Same thing here, no party or other. 75% say no, 18.5% say yes, 6.5% say unsure. Now we'll go on to Biden on SCOTUS protests. Do you believe the Biden administration's refusal to publicly condemn abortion activists publishing home addresses of Supreme Court justices and calling for protests at their private homes will encourage or discourage protests to become potentially unlawful or violent? Or encourage protests to become unlawful or violent, they say 52.3%. Will have no impact on protests, 27.5%. And discourage protests from becoming unlawful or violent, 10.0%. And unsure, 10.2%. And the same thing here with the Democrats, 27.7%. Will have no impact on protests, or 39.2%. 6.2% for discourage protests from becoming unlawful or violent. And then unsure, 16.9%. And now we'll go with the GOP, 75.6%, 13.4% for the will have no impact on protests, and discourage protests from becoming unlawful or violent, 6.2%, unsure, 4.7%. For the no party or other, encourage protests to become unlawful or violent, 54.7%, will have no impact on protests, 29.8%, discourage protests from becoming unlawful or violent, 7.0%, and unsure is 8.6%. Age participation, here we go, for all this good stuff here. Ethnicity, 7.12% white, 12.3% black, and all this stuff. Now, a lot of you people are gonna probably go with like, oh, it's a majority of white people. Okay, listen, there's about 13.7% or so black people in the country. So again, the majority of the country is white. So yes, it's gonna be, the percentage of white people is going to be higher. I'm sorry to burst your bubble, people, but that's just the truth. And this is around an accurate percentage of black people, I would say, an accurate percent. It's a little bit lower, but, you know, you're not going to get, like, the same thing with whites, same thing with Hispanics, etc., etc. You're probably not going to get the full percentage of the actual, you know, black people being there, or representing the full amount. But, as I say, that's the majority. So, you know, it's mostly female. So, but here's one thing I want to point out, guys. One big thing people are probably not seeing here, the absolute state of Democrats' minds. Now, let's look at the Democrats, to where encourage protests to become unlawful or violent. 27.7% will have no impact on protests. 39.2%. That's a problem. So I see this as an issue. This is, again, this is a problem. This is where you go into the Democrats' minds, and you start seeing that they're seeming to be a bit more violent, I would say. And of course, protests become unlawful or violent with the SCOTUS protests. This is higher. But look, you see this? Democrats are higher with this, which we all know that the protests are going to become unlawful or violent. This is a problem. Then let's go with here. Protests with the GOP. Now, they are a bit higher. They're quite a bit higher to compared to the yes. So a healthy amount of them are saying it's okay. So we're seeing the actual brain of the Democrats here, of what they think, and yes, I agree, majority of them are against this. However, it goes to show that Democrats seem to be a bit more of a aggressive group than it portrays to be. Of course, a majority of them denounce this, but again, it's showing quite a few signs of how Democrats are, how they act, or how they think. So, food for thought, ladies and gentlemen. Food for thought. Alright, guys, that's it for the video. Like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.